So the Switch 2 Direct happened, and you probably figured this video was coming. I watched it yesterday when I was eating breakfast in the afternoon. Not even a whole Nintendo Direct about a brand new console is enough to make me want to be awake at 9 in the morning. Anyway, it feels like 2016 again with me making a video about a Nintendo Direct and having an iPad with me with notes on what I want to talk about, which is also what I used to do back in the day when I would talk about Nintendo Directs on this channel. Anyway, there is quite a bit I liked, quite a bit I didn't like in this Direct, and that's also the case with some news that has come after this Direct, and I'm not going to talk about everything in this Direct, obviously. There was also quite a bit of stuff in this Direct that didn't interest me, so I'll skip over those things. Anyway, this Direct opened up with Mario Kart World, the first new mainline Mario Kart game since, well, Mario Kart 8 in 2014. I maintain that the Switch should have had its own Mario Kart game. I know Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was a smash hit for the Switch. I believe it is even the highest selling Switch game. But when they came out with that huge DLC pack a few years ago, I was like, why couldn't have this just been Mario Kart 9? By that point, it was what, 7 or 8 years since Mario Kart 8 came out. That game was milked dry, and this new Mario Kart game is long overdue in my opinion. But anyway, let me actually talk about this new Mario Kart game. I mean, there's not really much to say. It's a Mario Kart game. I know it'll be a fun game. There are some interesting new additions to this game, like for example, the atmosphere changing depending on what time of the day it is, and apparently even the weather changing depending on the weather conditions outside, I assume. I don't know how much that would affect the actual gameplay though, aside from the scenery changing. It would be kind of funny though if, say, it were raining outside and also raining in the game, and you drive over puddles, and sometimes maybe the puddles would make your kart sputter out of control. But then again, that would probably infuriate me, since the game would be more punishing based on something that is beyond your control, the weather conditions outside. But hey, when has a Mario Kart game ever been fair, right? What's also interesting is it seems the courses in each cup are interconnected, meaning when you finish a race, you just go to the next course with no loading in between, and you go straight to the next course and begin the next race, or at least that's what I gathered from what was said in this trailer. We'll see how this is actually implemented when the game comes out, or when we get more details surrounding this game, which there is going to be a whole ass direct on this game very soon, later this month. But I don't know about you, but I liked that nice breather after a tense race. Sometimes I needed like a minute to prep myself for the next race, so if we're just gonna zoom to the next course in this game, I don't know how I feel about that personally. But again, we'll see how this is implemented. What was also added to this game is a free roam mode. This is also an ample opportunity to mention. You can go anywhere you want on each course. You don't have to stay on the main track. That actually sounds really cool. I am sure there are plenty of cool shortcuts and tricks waiting to be discovered by players when this game comes out. That obviously wouldn't be possible in previous Mario Kart games, as obviously every Mario Kart game up until this one forced you to stay on the main track. When it comes to the free roam mode though, yeah, sure, it would be cool to explore these courses without the tension of racing other players. I appreciate that Nintendo added this mode, but at the same time, I don't know how much I would actually play this mode. I watched Shokyo's video last night where he gave his thoughts on the Direct. Remember him, by the way? Anyway. And he said pretty much how I feel about this mode. When I play a Mario Kart game, I'm playing it for the race, obviously, and not to casually drive through courses. Again, not to slant against this mode or anything. I just don't know if I would really give a shit about this mode. If you're excited for it, fine. Overall, this looks like it'll be a fun game, just like every other Mario Kart game I have played. But there is one elephant in the room that I'd wish to address now. The price. What I've also heard that is floating around is this game will be $80 digitally and $90 physically. I've heard conflating reports though. The $90 price point might apply to countries outside of the US. But that would mean this game would still be $80 physically here in the US. Which, way to fucking squander excitement for this game and for this console if this is going to be a regular thing moving forward. What is it about a fucking Mario Kart game that justifies an $80 or $90 price point? It's not like this is a mainline 3D Mario game, and even if it was, it still wouldn't justify this egregious price point. And I've seen Nintendo fans scramble to defend this. Oh, it's because the tariffs. And if you adjust for inflation, $60 N64 games in the 90s cost roughly $80 today. You don't have to fucking defend this. And look, maybe it is because of the tariffs. The Switch 2 is being manufactured manufactured in Vietnam, I believe, and Vietnam just recently got hit by Trump with a 46% tariff. But do you really think the average consumer is going to be sympathetic and be like, oh, okay, this game is $80 or $90 physically because of the tariffs Trump has implemented? I understand, and I will happily pay this price. No, they are not fucking like that at all. Your average consumer doesn't even have a basic grasp on economics. When it comes to soaring egg prices, they didn't even take into account that there is a virus going around that has heavily impacted the livestock that produces the eggs that we buy in our stores, and thought Biden was just pressing the inflation go up button in the Oval Office. So you can explain away the egregious price point for a fucking Mario Kart game all you please. It's not going to make people care or think it's any less outrageous. In today's economy, many people can't even afford the roof over their heads and the groceries they buy from stores. Federal minimum wage in this country is still $7, and many states in this country don't wish to go above the federal minimum wage. Prices skyrocket while people's paychecks remain stagnant. People have every right to be upset that a Mario Kart game is nearly $100 fucking dollars. And you just know that Sony, Microsoft, other publishers and studios are rock solid right now, and will watch intently how this Mario Kart game's price will be received upon release. And if most people are like, well, the price sucks, but I'll buy the game anyway, you just know that all of these other studios and publishers are going to increase the prices of their games as well. And GTA 6 is probably going to be $100 when it releases. People thought that was going to be the real test to see if people will pay an egregious price for a video game, but I guess Nintendo wanted to rip that band-aid off first. Fuck this greedy ass company, man. I have been sounding the alarm for years talking about Nintendo's greed, and I would always get fanboys in the comments defending Nintendo's every move, telling me and anyone else who complains about Nintendo's blatantly anti-consumer practices that we need to get better paying jobs, Nintendo owes us nothing. And that's why I don't like fucking talking about this company on this channel anymore outside of special occasions like this, because talking to Nintendo fanboys and airing out your legitimate complaints surrounding this company with them is like talking to a fucking brick wall. Anyway, that's enough ranting for now. Well, I mean, there are other things in this Direct that pissed me off, so I don't think that'll be the end of ranting in this video, but anyway, let's move on for now. The Switch 2 also has a voice chat feature, and there will also be a dedicated voice chat button on the Switch 2's Joy-Cons and the Pro Controller that will be coming out for the Switch 2 that I have more to say on a little later in this video. I can't believe it, Nintendo actually entered the year 2006 and implemented a voice chat feature into the console itself. It's a goddamn miracle. Face chatting will also be possible on this console. I believe it comes with a camera. And look, I'm not the biggest voice chat and especially face chat person. Every time I get a FaceTime call, I'm like, no, don't call me through FaceTime. Just make a regular call. But even if I wouldn't personally use this feature, I didn't even use Wii U chat back when that was a thing. I mean, I think once or twice when friends on Miiverse would fucking beg me to use Wii U chat, and I finally caved. I only used it for like a minute at most because I wanted to get the fuck out of the call as quickly as possible. But I am happy that this is finally a feature on the Switch 2. Gone are the days where you need a fucking phone app to voice chat with people, and this was only for a select few games. You may as well just use Discord at that point, but anyway, I am happy that Nintendo is not continuing this with the Switch 2. Anyway, moving on, there is a Switch 2 demo game that I wouldn't talk about if Nintendo didn't make you fucking pay for it. An exact price point has yet to be announced, but the fact that they're making people pay for what is just a tech demo for the console is just so fucking outrageous. Astro's Playroom comes with every PS5, free of charge, and that is an actual game. Yeah, sure, it may be a bit on the gimmicky side because its first and foremost purpose is to show off the capabilities of the DualSense, but still, even for what is essentially a tech demo, that was actually a really fun game, and was well received enough that we got Astrobot. I doubt many people would even give a shit about Astro's Playroom, and we probably wouldn't have even gotten Astrobot if Sony was like, okay, on top of this PS5 you just purchased, there's also this demo game that you have to pay additional money for. Most people would be like, fuck that, and I'm sure most people would be the same way with this demo game that is coming for the Switch 2. Why pay additional money for something you're probably only going to play once or twice, at most. Do you think many people would have given a shit about Wii Sports if Nintendo went with their original idea and making that game its own separate release? That game probably would have been a forgotten demo like this game is destined to be, but instead it is a staple of so many childhoods of kids from the 2000s. Nintendo Land was another good pack-in game. Now, if you got the basic Wii U, the white one, it didn't come with Nintendo Land, so I had to buy Nintendo Land separately, unfortunately. That game was basically a tech demo too, but it was actually a lot of fun. I think I liked it even more than Wii Sports. Hot take, probably. And I'm pretty sure most people went with the black Wii U, so most people had that game packed in with their system. I can't with this company, man. It's just... ugh. Anyway, let's move on to something that I actually like. The Pro Controller. See, I told you I was gonna say more about this controller. Now, truth be told, I don't actually have too much to say about this Pro Controller, but if I do get a Switch 2, I'll probably also pick up this controller, because the original Pro Controller for the original Switch is my preferred way to play Switch games. But what I do want to focus on is this Pro Controller has an audio jack, so you can plug your headphones into this Pro Controller, which... holy fucking shit, thank you. My one huge gripe with the original Pro Controller is that it doesn't have an audio jack for some asinine reason, so I still have to use the audio jack on the Switch itself. And my headphone wire, yes, I use wired headphones, bite me, barely reaches my bed. And it wasn't even until a few years ago that Nintendo finally allowed you to use Bluetooth headphones with the Switch, so you were kind of forced to use wired headphones up until that point. So thank you, Nintendo, for catching up on yet another thing that you should have implemented years ago. The next thing I want to talk about, Mario Party Jamboree. I actually don't give a shit about Mario Party games, and I don't plan on getting this game, so why am I talking about it? I just found the gimmicky bullshit in the game to be kind of funny, like you appearing on screen, hitting blocks, you guiding a car with your voice, and on screen was someone saying, go, 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 every time the car was moving, which, yeah, that totally won't get annoying for anyone around you while you're playing the game. I would hope that that's not mandatory, but it's a little reminiscent of that one AVGN episode where he was reviewing bad NES accessories. And there was one accessory that utilized your voice, and say if you want your character to fire a weapon, you yell, fire! And AVGN was like, imagine your mother on the phone in the same room as you while you're playing this game and using this headset. And imagine whoever she's talking to on the other end hears you yelling, fire, 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 in the background. See, I still like AVGN, classic AVGN at least, so eat shit, all the James were all fanboys who got mad at me for that one video last year. Anyway, what sucks about this though, and something else I want to talk about in this video, is Mario Party Jamboree is obviously already on the OG Switch, and is getting an upgrade for Switch 2 that has all of the features that I mentioned in this video included, and it is a paid upgrade. And it sucks whenever companies do this. Here is a game that you already own, and if you want an enhanced version for that game you already own, you have to fork up even more money. Sony does this, they initially didn't up until a few years ago. Other publishers do this, or fuck, some publishers just expect you to pay for the game full price again. Like Atlus with Persona 5. I played OG Persona 5 in 2021 because it came free with PS Plus at the time, and then I played Royal a year later, and I may get the PS5 version someday. I do want to play that game again, it's just that it's so goddamn long. And there better be a way to transfer data from the PS4 version onto the PS5 version, because I am not playing that game from scratch a third time. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are also getting upgrades, and additionally there will also be a new feature on the Switch's online services app, where there can be a map of the overworld to guide you, and there could even be a text-to-speech voice telling you where a shrine is, or I assume any other point in the map you wish to get to, which I think is a cool feature. It's still not enough to make me give a shit about Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but if such a feature or something similar makes its way to other games, I could see myself utilizing it, so that's cool, I suppose. Next, I want to talk about Prime 4. Oh my god, I want to get my hands on this game, even though I am certain I'll be playing this on the OG Switch first. But I am sure it will look gorgeous on the Switch 2. In fact, I know it will look gorgeous on the Switch 2 because it comes with two different modes. Quality mode 4K 60fps in HDR, and then performance mode 1080p 120fps in HDR as well, and then handheld mode is 720p 120fps, also in HDR. This is also a good time to talk about the Switch 2 shaping up to be a surprisingly capable console. I was so scared that they were going to reveal the specs and the specs would be on par with like a base PS4 or a PS4 Pro at best. Now we'll see about the longevity when it comes to third-party support and games getting more demanding as time goes on. But for now, it seems like the Switch 2 is shaping up to have pretty capable specs, and Nintendo seems to care this time around about having competent hardware, which is surprising to me, which Nintendo hasn't seemed to care about since the GameCube, but hey, I'm happy that Nintendo seems to be taking hardware seriously again. A lot of annoying fanboys keep screeching on about how Nintendo games are about the fun and not the specs, and by extension, video games should be about fun and not the specs. And it's like, yeah, no shit, but you also have to take into account that a console should have a flourishing third-party library. The OG Switch initially got decent third-party support, and then that tapered out when games got even more demanding and the Switch's hardware couldn't keep up. So yes, games should be about the fun first and foremost, but you can't entirely write off the specs. Do you want a repeat of what happened with the OG Switch, where after a while it wasn't getting third-party support anymore, or if it did get third-party support, it was in the form of shitty cloud ports, or completely broken ports because the Switch could barely handle the game, like what happened with a Mortal Kombat game that released a few years ago. When I say specs matter when it comes to a Nintendo console, I want said console to have decent to good, long-term, third-party support. I don't see what the fuck is so wrong about wanting that. You'd have Nintendo's exclusives and a flourishing third-party library as well. Win-win. Anyway, moving on from that, there were a whole bunch of games shown in between Prime 4 and what I want to talk about next that I did not give a shit about. And yes, that includes Elden Ring. Sorry, FromSoft fans. I just mentioned the GameCube like a minute or two ago, which is fitting because I want to talk now about the Switch 2 getting GameCube games on its online service. Holy fucking shit, I've wanted this for years. You know how much I've been talking about wanting Nintendo to preserve great GameCube games that are still stuck on the GameCube. But it seems like up until recently, Nintendo just kinda wanted to forget the GameCube's existence. But just last year, we got the Thousand Year Door port, which no doubt introduced many players to that great game. And hey, it stays true to the original Japanese version's dialogue, and Vivian is trans in that version, so thumbs up to that as well. And also double thumbs up for it dramatically decreasing the price of copies of the original game. Before the remaster, if you wanted to own that game officially, you had to fork up like $150 or $120 just for the disc alone. And I am so glad that is not the case anymore. And speaking of game prices, there's been a lot of discourse on the GameCube subreddit about whether or not GameCube games being put on the Switch's online service means that prices for original copies of these games will decrease, and the consensus seems to be no. As this is a subscription service, you wouldn't actually own these games, and Nintendo could easily rip these games away from their service at any time. But I mean, this will be the first time that games like Chibi Robo that I really want to play, or that Fire Emblem game on the GameCube, I don't care about Fire Emblem, thank God. I mean, that game is like $300 fucking dollars. But anyway, this will be the first time that games like those will be easily accessible, officially I should add, since, well, when they originally released. I would hope there will be a decrease in demand for these games once GameCube games roll out on the Switch too, and people are like, why hunt down copies for these games when I could just play them on my Switch? I've seen some people on the GameCube subreddit also argue that this could possibly lead to an opposite effect, where there will be more demand for copies of these games because people play them on the Switch's online service and they're like, you know what, I really want to own this game physically. And then prices inflate even more, which, oh god, I hope not. But either way, I am glad the GameCube is finally getting attention again from Nintendo, and this will surely introduce a lot of players to fantastic games that are still locked on old hardware. Yes, I know the Dolphin emulator exists, and with devices like the Steam Deck and portable PCs and such, it is now easier and more accessible than ever to emulate games. But emulation, I'd imagine, still appeals to a niche portion of the gaming community. There there are still a ton of players who wouldn't play these games if they were to never enter the Switch's online service, and not out of their minds like me and won't pay exorbitant prices for copies of these games. Me personally, I still like playing copies of these games on my GameCube, so I'm going to stick with that. But if nothing else, I'm glad that a lot of great GameCube games are finally not going to be stuck on ancient hardware only. What I want to talk about next is From Software's exclusive game on the Switch 2. Funny, I just said I don't care about FromSoft games, but no, this is actually pretty significant. This is a very interesting move on Nintendo's part because you think they wouldn't care about having such a game be exclusive on their platform, and Nintendo seems to be baring teeth again, and they're not like, we'll just coast by on our exclusives alone. It's kind of reminiscent of Nintendo securing that deal with Capcom during the GameCube's generation, and getting a major franchise like Resident Evil as a GameCube exclusive. Now granted, Resident Evil 1's remake and Resident Evil 0 are available on other platforms now, and Resident Evil 4 was a GameCube exclusive for like 2 minutes. But hey, that was still a pretty significant move from Nintendo, and them obviously trying to court a more mature audience for their system, and them being aware after the N64 that they can't just rely solely on their first-party titles. Obviously, it didn't work in the long run. If it weren't for the Wii U being such an abysmal failure, the GameCube would still be Nintendo's worst-selling home console. But I'm glad Nintendo is trying that again, and again, I am glad that Nintendo realizes that they can't just coast by only on their first-party titles. While I actually played the game, it doesn't really look that interesting to me. I'm sorry, I just don't care about FromSoft games. You can say I'm missing out all you want, I don't care. The last thing they showed in the Direct was Donkey Kong Bonanza. You'd think they would have ended with the FromSoft game, but no, they ended with this. And that's not me ragging on this game, because this game actually does look pretty good. And it's a full-fledged 3D Donkey Kong game, not a side-scroller like the country games. And there's also Jungle Beat on the GameCube, which you have to use fucking bongos to control, which is the only thing that has kept me from adding that game to my collection. And this is the first 3D platformer Donkey Kong game since the one on the N64, I'd imagine. I mean, I could be wrong, but I can't think of a Donkey Kong game between then and now that was also a full 3D platformer, so maybe I am right. But either way, if I do end up getting a Switch 2, I probably would pick this game up. But if it is egregiously priced like Mario Kart World, I am definitely buying it secondhand because I do not wish to support such a blatantly anti-consumer practice. And here's the thing, I am struggling to get excited for this console, and it's not even because of the console itself. Like I said, the Switch 2 is exactly what it needs to be, a beefed up Switch and nothing more. The console seems surprisingly capable, which I really like. A lot of the games they showed look great, but it's bullshit like jacking the price of games up so egregiously high that I just can't get behind. And here's the shit kicker, Nintendo has confirmed that some Switch 2 games will have a key card inside of the cartridge, meaning the actual data of the game that you are theoretically buying is not in the cartridge itself, but rather the key inside of the cartridge grabs a download from the eShop, and that's how the game is playable. So if Switch 2 games being $80 or $90 becomes common practice, you would be paying that amount of money for nothing more than a certificate proving that you bought the game, but you wouldn't actually own it, which is such a crock of bullshit. You would think Nintendo would be the last vestige in the gaming industry to keep physical media alive, but no, they seem to be very interested in driving the nail into the coffin as well. And there's also the bullshit with you needing a micro SD express card as opposed to regular micro SD cards like you already have in your Switch more than likely. You can't just swap that out of your regular Switch and put it into your Switch 2, it won't work. You need to buy a new micro SD card that does not contain the data you already had on the micro SD card you were using on your Switch, obviously. I'm not a tech guy at all, so I don't know the fucking difference between a regular micro SD card and an express micro SD card. And I'd imagine your average parent wouldn't know the difference either. Little Timmy notices the micro SD card he was already using in his OG Switch doesn't work with his new Switch 2. He tells his parents to get a new one for him and maybe even explains to them to get an express micro SD card, and they'll probably still make the mistake of getting a regular micro SD card. No one is better at instantaneously killing hype for something than Nintendo. This could have been a great direct, which it still was for the most part, but I could have walked away actually excited for this console if it weren't for a select few blatantly shitty, greedy, and baffling decisions on Nintendo's part. Now I'm like, I don't care either way if I get this console or not. I am still more than happy with my PS5 and my GameCube, and I already don't play on my regular Switch all that much, and with all of this bullshit massively holding back my excitement, it's like maybe I'll get this console someday, but definitely not soon because I am not dying to own this console. It's not like I was already planning on buying the Switch 2 day one or anything, but I was like, maybe this will be something I'll get during the holiday season, and I would still be of that frame of mind if, again, it weren't for the bullshit I just talked about. So good job, Nintendo. You could have had a home run with this direct, but I know I am far from the only person whose hype was completely squandered by you being so blatantly greedy. I have no doubt the Switch 2 will be a successful console. I doubt it'll be a Wii U situation, but honestly, I'm kind of rooting against the Switch 2 at this point because of this shit. Because I know the Switch 2 not having a successful launch will be the only thing that would humble Nintendo and make them realize that their exorbitant prices for their games, or at least the Mario Kart game, is not landing well with customers, and by extension other publishers, studios, and platform holders will also take notice of this, and not make the same mistakes Nintendo made, but again, that is all contingent on the Switch 2 being a disappointment sales-wise. Which, again, I doubt will happen. Anyway, it should be more crystal clear now, more than ever, as to why I'm so disillusioned by Nintendo these days. And if you still want to defend Nintendo to the death, then be my guest, I can't stop you, but don't cry when people treat you like the dumbass you are. Anyway, my voice is ready to give out. Jesus Christ, this video is 26 minutes long. That's all I have to say. Bye-bye.